بلادي يا بلادي يا عين قمر الربيع بلادي يا بلادي نورك الجميع قلت يلا يا ولادي قلنا بلادي.
Welcome back, dear viewers. You're still watching The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International, and today, following up on the presidential activities, President Fattah al-Sisi today is expected to inaugurate a number of new mega projects in South Sinai. Among these mega projects is King Salman's Civil University, which is considered to be one of the biggest universities in Egypt, and the Minister of Higher Education, Dr. Khaled Abdul Gaafar, said that King Salman University targets reducing the burden on the governmental universities. And we're going to be, of course, following up closely on these events as they unfold. And moving on, dear viewers, to our first and main topic of discussion for today. Recently, the Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohammed Maid, has conducted two virtual meetings. The first was with the representatives of the management of the monetary policy at the International Monetary Fund, and the second with 40 investors from the AmCham, or the American Chamber of Commerce. And as we said earlier, that we shall talk about more about the economic developments in Egypt and witnessing, which has been witnessed in different fields. And to shed more light on this topic, we're most delighted to be joined here in the studio by Dr. Gaafar, an economic expert. First of all, Doctor, thank you so much for joining us on Nile TV International. Well, first of all, if you can tell us about the importance of the participation of the Minister of Finance in the two meetings that I've mentioned in my introduction.
Of course, the IMF is always important to consult with. This is the institution which gave us the loan for the economic reforms, and they are still helping whenever we need. So, and they are monitoring our reform program, so they are sure that we are executing it properly. And as they do, we gain more and more confidence as far as the international community is concerned. Of course, meeting American investors is always very useful. We all know the AmCham is doing a great job to enhance the economic relation between the two countries. They have been active for decades now, and we have seen a lot of American companies working in Egypt, investing in Egypt, cooperating with Egyptian counterparts. So it is useful, and I'm sure that such meetings result into more investments and more companies, American companies particularly, interested in our economy and in our businesses, and let's hope that this results into very positive.
Yes, indeed. Also, another important financial institution is the World Bank. Recently, the World Bank has described Egypt as a shining point in Africa after the foreign investments increased by 11% in the past fiscal year. So how do you see these statements made by the World Bank?
Well, it is very important. Of course, a statement from the World Bank is in itself a certificate of confidence. So we are always happy to know that such prestigious institutions have confidence in our economy, and they look positively into our economic future. So this is very important, and one has to emphasize on the fact that thanks to the economic reform, we managed to sustain the COVID-19 difficult times, and so far we are one of very few countries that are still on the positive side as far as economic growth is concerned, and we hope to continue doing that. And this is by the confirmation, I should say, of such institutions. So it means that we have done well, and we are still doing well, and hopefully we will continue doing well. And as you rightly said, investments are coming in, and in these difficult times, when foreign direct investment increases, it means that we are in a very good position. Thanks. Thank God.
Dr. Raouf, Egypt is the only country in the Middle East and Africa that could keep confidence of all three international rating institutions, the Standard & Poor's, Moody's, and Fitch, so during such a tough period in the history of global economy. How do you see that?
First of all, one has to say that such institutions are, I mean, they base their assessment on studies, on facts, on information.
Tangible indicators.
Of course, and it has to be, they send their people, they have their experts, so when they say that we are in a good situation, it means that we are really in a good situation. And their projection for our future is on the positive side for some time. They are still, which means that we are on the right track, and we have done well. Such reports and assessments are always useful, again, to attract investors and to attract maybe financial institutions to give us more help, more grants, more loans, and to have faith in our economy as much as we do. So, of course, it is very positive, and one is very proud that they are all saying that we are on the positive side and that we are growing in the right direction.
Dr. O, from economy to development, how do you evaluate the development Egypt has witnessed in the past few years under the leadership of His Excellency President Fattah al-Sisi?
I think it is, considering the circumstances, it is unprecedented. I mean, first of all, if we're talking the reform program, it has been executed and implemented immaculately. It went flawlessly, in my opinion. Very well studied. We have worked in parallel directions. Infrastructure from one side, building the society from the other. I mean, bettering and improving the standard of living of the Egyptian individual. So, taking care of people's education, of people's health, etc. So, I mean, we have been very well implementing our program and working on, as I said, on different domains that help not only the economy but the Egyptian individual, particularly giving a great attention to the youth and to women. And these are two, of course, elements that are very important, and we have not forgotten them at all. On the contrary. Plus, one has to say, if we forget economy for a second, on the political side as well, Egypt has been doing a great role regionally, continentally, and internationally.
Speaking about internationally, Dr. Raouf, what do you think would be the positive impact of Egypt's foreign policy on the economy as well as the internal affairs?
First of all, the comeback we made to Africa was great, and it has opened the opportunity for new markets. So now Africa is one of the potential markets that we are about to enter, and we have done, of course, but it is growing, and we see a lot of potential in the African market, and this is thanks to the policy that tends to keep very good relations with everybody. And we have worked on establishing and securing peace and security all over the continent, and that is why everybody wants to work with us. We have seen a lot of companies, Egyptian companies, not only selling their goods in Africa, but working in Africa, executing huge projects in Africa, which means that this is, again, reflects on the economy very positively. On top of that, we have been witnessing an increase in our exports, particularly in the agricultural products and what have you. So this again has opened a new markets for us, and I hope it continues growing. So of course, the international relations, the good political relations with different countries have their impact, positive impact on the economy, of course.
Yes, Dr. Raouf, also, how do you see the achievements made by Egypt on the diplomatic front since President Fattah al-Sisi took the helm?
Again, I said I don't want to compare to the year when the Brotherhood was reigning, but I'm talking in general. President Sisi made it a point to improve the relations with everybody, and so now we are very well introduced, very well respected all over the world. And once again, beside the personal relation that he sort of made with most of the heads of state in different parts of the world, but again, Egypt has assumed back its rightful position as far as a very important country in the Middle East, in Africa, and in the East Mediterranean region. So, yes, of course, this was a very intelligent and successful move to come back to the whole world and to show that Egypt is a country that everybody should look at with respect and with admiration.
Dr. Raouf, as an expert, can you walk us through the major economic developments that took place in Egypt in the past few years?
Of course, we start with the infrastructure projects. We have seen the development that happened in the infrastructure. We're talking electricity, we are talking energy in general, we are talking highways, we are talking internet, we are talking telecommunications. I mean, all infrastructure projects have been implemented again in the best possible way, and this had its impact, of course, on the global economy of Egypt and on the coming back of investors in Egypt. Although lately, once again, we have unfortunately lost some of our sources of income, like tourism, etc., but this is, of course, worldwide. But still, we could sustain, and we are still very much growing economically, not only on the infrastructure level, but on a lot of other very important venues, like, again, education, like health, like housing. I mean, again, we have the government and President Sisi are now looking to the Egyptian individual, and they want to improve his lifestyle, his standard of living, and this is happening very successfully. So again, we have moved according to a very planned study, and very well done, and implemented really by the book.
Yes, Dr. Raouf, allow us to go for a short break, and then we'll be back. Dear viewers, a short break, and then we'll be back to continue our discussion with our guest here in the studio. A short break, and we'll be back. Stay tuned.
في السباق للعالمية الكل بيجري عشان يوصل للهدف، للمستقبل، وعشان توصل وتنجح ويسمع العالم صوتك ويشاور عليك ويبقى اسمك رقم واحد وسط أكبر الأسماء في العالم، كان لازم نجري.
Welcome back, dear viewers. We're still watching The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International, continuing our discussion with our guest here in the studio, Dr. Raouf Gaafar, economic expert, about the quantum leap that Egypt has been witnessing on different fronts. And also speaking about development, Egypt has embarked on a mammoth Sinai Peninsula development plan, which is set to be completed by 2022 at a cost of 275 billion Egyptian pounds, which is approximately 16 billion US dollars. So, Dr. Raouf, why do you see is it important to develop Sinai Peninsula?
Sinai is a very dear part of Egypt. I mean, although we had it for thousands of years, but we have not discovered it except very lately. So if we are talking Sinai, we are talking a real gold mine. Tourism, we're talking beaches, corals, I mean, that do not exist anywhere else. And so this is, of course, a huge asset. Regarding this, I mean, we have been exploiting these resources, and now south of Sinai is, if not the, but one of the major touristic destinations in the world, as far as leisure and tourism, etc. If we are talking projects, the development of Sinai, particularly in the north of Sinai, we can't really count them. I mean, we are talking, first of all, one has to admire the efforts that were made to join Sinai, or to link Sinai with the valley. So we only had a bridge years ago, and then one tunnel. Now we have 4 tunnels, and we have bridges, and so now both sides of the Suez Canal are very much linked, and movement of people, movement of goods, movement of everything is becoming very easy and very handy, and this helps growing. We're talking land reclamation, we're talking new communities, we're talking projects, we are talking the improvement of the fish farms. I mean, I don't want to forget, but again, the plan for Sinai, although we had some difficult times, of course, with Sinai regarding terrorism and cleaning it from the residues of terrorists, but and still doing. But again, in my opinion, development is one of the very effective ways to fight against terrorism. So we have been doing this. There is a plan expected to be fully implemented 2 years from now. But again, what I like not only about Sinai, that we are not now, and this is a view of the president and the administration, we are not looking anymore to Egypt 2025 or Egypt to 2030, but we are talking rather 2040, 2050. So that means that we have a
sustainable and a long-term
and
plan.
we're talking generations to come. And this, of course, it reflects the conviction of the president that youth are important as much as it's a huge asset. And we all know that 70 or 75 of the population are youth. So the importance given to the youth is in its right place, and everything is being directed for the future, because the youth are the leaders of the future. And that is why the planning is now 20 and 30 years ahead. And this is, of course, something we have not seen before, we have not experienced before.
Yes. Dr. Raouf, how do you see the strategic importance of developing North Sinai and transforming it, rather, as we're seeing today?
As I said, Sinai has a lot of resources. I mean, mineral resources, natural resources, a lot of things that were never exploited, and now we are starting doing that. And of course, once again, this is our gateway to Asia, for instance, and to other parts of the world. On the third side, as I said, the development is the best way to fight any illegal activities. And we have seen what happened in Sinai over the last years, and it's good to fight them. I mean, police, army are doing a great job, of course, and still are, but if you develop, I mean, you are offering job opportunities, and therefore people are working rather than doing something else.
Yes. Dr. Raouf, also we move on to another aspect, which is the keenness of the Egyptian leadership to encourage micro, small, and medium enterprises. How do you see the importance of that?
Again, it reflects a very positive vision. As we said, we have an asset, the human asset, and the human resource is one of the riches of Egypt, and we had to consider that. And there is no better way to utilize this resource rather than give them the opportunity to work. And of course, small and medium and micro investments and industry is the best solution to employ as many people as possible, offering them respectable jobs and opportunities, and this helps exploiting this very important resource, which is the human resource. So this is one thing that has been carefully planned, and mind you, it helps, in my humble opinion, decentralization, because they don't have to come to you, but you go to them, so they can develop their own businesses in their own cities and villages. So we have seen now a big development happening, particularly in Upper Egypt, for instance. We had some very poor governorates, but now they are developing. They have been given the right care and attention, and we have seen small and micro businesses growing in such places, which is again excellent for the sustainable development, of course.
Yes. Dr. Raouf, how do you see the fact that despite the challenges posed by the coronavirus or the COVID-19, the process of development in Egypt is still on track?
Well, it was a very wise decision from the government to open up and to deconfine the people and start or go back to business. But in my, again, opinion, I think that the lesson we learned from this COVID-19 crisis was to depend on ourselves. We have seen that the whole world has been affected, and the traffic of different goods have been slowed down, and that led us to depend on ourselves, particularly in our food, and increase our exports, and as far as, again, all sorts of agricultural and other products. But I think the major thing here is that we, I hope, in a very short time, will depend entirely on ourselves as far as food and food security is concerned. And this is a very important lesson. I'm sure that we learned it well, and we are now trying to apply it, and we will, inshallah, very successfully.
Dr. Raouf, towards that end, how do you evaluate the performance of the Egyptian economy related in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis?
Everybody is going into the minus, unfortunately, negative. But of course, we are not keeping the same growth rate that was reached before the COVID-19. But again, we have managed to not only to keep it in the positive side, but reasonably our economy is considerably doing well. We are in around the 3.5 level percent, I mean, economic growth, and we hope that between this year and next year the 3.5 will increase maybe to 4 or maybe more. And again, if we compare our economy to any economy in the world, you will find that Egypt is leading as far as this particular thing is concerned. So although we have been, of course, affected by the COVID-19, but we are, thanks to our reform and thanks to our economic policies, we have managed to maintain our economy on the positive side, and hopefully we will continue to do so.
Yes. Dr. Raouf, allow us to have over the phone Dr. Nabil Ghed to tell us more about the importance of education. Dr. Nabil, do you have my voice?
Yes, sir.
Doctor, we're about to witness the inauguration of a new university, King Salman University in South Sinai, which is going to be inaugurated by the president, one of the biggest universities in Egypt. If you can tell us about the importance of education in Egypt and the special attention that is paid by the political leadership to improving or developing this sector.
Well, as a matter of fact, I'm so proud and happy, pleased for this very gigantic step and all the gigantic steps in all fields of life, which makes us really feel worthy of our appreciation and for these efforts that the field of education is undoubtedly a very promising field for our new generation. It's an investment for the future. It's not only for the Egyptian students here in Egypt, but I think this is also for the other students from other countries as well. Besides, this is the consolidation of the friendly and hopefully everlasting ties of the close relationships between nations, especially Saudi Arabia. I do remember that I once watched a photo for the custodian of the two holy harams, King Salman ibn Abdulaziz, when he was in military uniform helping Egypt during the 1973 war. And this is actually something to be counted for him. I heard Dr. Raouf was just saying that the growth in Sinai covers all fields, minerals, natural fields, and now it comes to the educational resource as well. I think that is something to be encouraged. And the investment of rising generation, for a better future is beyond all expectation. It reflects a very good perspective and view of the leadership of this country, the wise leadership, and the efforts of Dr. Khalid Abdel Gaafar, who is a very energetic and diligent person as a member of the cabinet, wishing him the best of luck.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Nabil, also, how do you see the decision by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to dedicate more money to civil education and in building or developing community schools, which is, of course, with the aim of reaching the most vulnerable or the most marginalized?
Of course, this is something not to be ignored. And the President's concern in the field of education to be improving and developing and progressing, all these things are actually praiseworthy efforts. And without these efforts, we will not step forward. But I'm sure we will be jumping forward, and the attraction of the new students to join these universities will be more and more when time goes by. It's to be encouraged, and it's a very good reputation that Egypt has become, as I may say, a lighthouse for students who want to learn, come to Egypt, and this increases her very good reputation in all fields, especially the educational fields.
Yes, Dr. Nabil Ghed, we really appreciate your insight and thank you so much for being with us, joining us over the phone on The Breakfast Show. Thank you so much. Dr. Raouf, would you like to comment on what Dr. Nabil...
What the doctor said is very right. I wish to add something that our development into the numerical era is extremely important, and we see it implemented particularly in the education field, whether in schools or in universities. And this is a normal development. The whole world is moving into this era, and we are part of the world, and we are moving in the same direction with a reasonable speed. So this, once again, if you go back to the COVID-19, if it were not for the far-sighted vision of the president and the government to move into this digital transformation, we would have faced a lot of problems, particularly in the education field. So this, again, has to be considered.
Indeed. Dr. Raouf Gaafar, economic expert, as always, really appreciate your insight.
Thank you, my dear.
And thank you so much for being with us on The Breakfast Show.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you, my
Dear viewers, now we move on to a quick break and then be back to resume The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International.